yeah. Well, I mean, growing them up and shooting Cybermen and all that stuff was fun. I took my daughter, she was only about 3 at the time, down to the studio. It was at Shepperton. And the studio where they built the Daleks spaceship was so big and high, there were birds flying around in the top, so any dialogue had to be post-sunk afterwards. Anyway, I took my daughter down there and I took the lid off on. I said, do you want to go in it? She said, yeah. So I put her in it and shut it and she started crying. So I said, what's going on? It was a bit strange. I mean, there's a sequence in the film, I do remember this very clearly, where I had to, the Cyberman is standing on a... Cyberman in those days. The wrong one. Anyway, he was standing on a higher up there. So I saw him, and I took a Bowie knife out, and I threw it. Now, the shot of him on the shelf, Roverman? Yeah, on the shelf, did the thing, oh, I'm falling. So then they had the shot of me. So the camera's up there, and he's filming from the Cyberman's point of view, so he can edit the two together. Now, I'm wearing glasses now, and I was wearing glasses then, which I wasn't wearing in the thing. So I took this knife out and threw it. Now, without glasses, cameraman up there, it stuck in the wall just by the guy's head. The Roverman. Anyway, there was some sort of extraordinary things in it. I mean, it's an extraordinary film in lots and lots of ways. As I say, Cushing was a total gentleman. Bernard Cribbins was a delight. He taught me to roll cigarettes with my fingers. And I saw him a few weeks ago at a friend of ours' funeral. Came out, and there's Bernie, rolling a cigarette. You still smoking? I said, yes. I gave up a few years ago, you should pack it up, you know. And he taught me how to do it. The man's a lunatic. Anyway, there are lots of memories. Gordon Fleming, who directed it, is the only director in 50 years that's ever re-employed me. His son is Jason Fleming, the actor. And I remember not breastfeeding him, but changing his nappies and things like that. And he's now 40 years old or something. But Gordon gave me another job, and that was the one job I had. This was with Richard Attenborough, lots of people, I can't think of the Welsh actor, doesn't matter. But went to Hong Kong and Spain, and I got £300 a week, and I managed to get enough money together to put a deposit in the house, which we sold. Extraordinary. So Gordon Fleming was a delight. He's now gone, unfortunately. So there we are.
You're more kind of known for Ken Loach films and stuff like that, but this was what an action kind of part for you, running and...
Yeah, well, running, yeah, well, I could run in those days. I could hardly get down the stairs here. The point about it is, in those days, we could all run. Well, you still do, but I can't, well, I can, but the point is, in those days, I mean, you had to do a lot of things. I had to ride horses. I rode a horse in the Avengers once, with T.P. McKenna was my partner in crime, and we were going to go and kill Steed. And this woman came along, was looking after horses. There were two big hunter horses. And the sequence was that a big helicopter with our boss was going to come down the railway line towards this little station, this new station. And T.P. McKenna and I were supposed to stand on the tracks holding these two big hunter horses. So I said to the director, listen, I said, I'm not standing there holding that horse. I've got 3 children. I don't want to get killed. Because the groom said, doesn't want too much noise around these things. They've never been on a film set before. So he said, you've got to do it. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. So I took all my gear off and gave it to somebody else. So T.P. McKenna, who's mostly pissed, he's holding on my horse. He didn't care. He'd been in charge of the light brigade, so he knew all about horses. So he's hanging on. And there's a poor bugger went in my clothes and held this horse. The minute the helicopter came in, they both jumped up onto the platforms, dragging T.P. McKenna, who didn't feel pain, but they dragged him up. I think, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Anyway, those are just sort of, I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's an action film, you being an action hero.
Oh, it was in action, yes, yes. I wasn't in Kathy Come Home, no, I wasn't in that. In the Knack, I rode a motorbike. Has anyone seen the Knack? Ever heard of the Knack?
In the kind of, we've all seen the famous trailer, The Boy with the Knack.
Oh, well, there you are, that's the film.
So,
Anyway.
so how did...
Well, the difference with that was I had to ride a motorbike, and I'd never ridden one before. And in the film, I had to have a Harley Davidson. Now, I don't know whether you know about Harley Davidsons. They're very big police New York motorcyclists, and they're big bikes. And somebody has stabbed the tyre of this Harley Davidson, and I had to push it. So they took me down to this place where they sold Harley Davidsons, and they deflated one of the tyres, and I tried to push it. I couldn't push it. So they had to mock up this fake one. So there was a sequence in it, because Dick Lester, who directed it, was all this mad, sappy, you know, he did the Beatles' Help and Hard Day's Night. So he was full of madness. And on this housing, where they were building, they've got old doors around the edge of this thing where they were knocking down buildings. And we had to keep, I had reached him on the back, and we had to come out through one of these doors, bang it and come out. Well, at lunchtime, I had a couple of pints of Guinness. Rita's on the back, and the camera's outside. Action, they shout. So I go, Rita's hanging on to me, we go through the thing, and the camera was close enough, I swerved around, hit the curb, and she fell off. I never rode that back again. Here, put my suit on, somebody else doing it. I love it, I love that.
Your big thing in the 60s was Kathy Came Home. It was really a kind of a groundbreaking bit of work, but still, I think, curtain.
Well, it is. It's one of the... Well, it's a seminal piece of television. Because we actually... This studio, not here, but somewhere in Riverside, it was the first play that had ever been done with 90% of it on film. And Ken Loach wanted a few interiors, and they built 2 sets in the Riverside studio. We came down here, and it's all improvised. I mean, the script, it said, Reg and Kathy in Park, blank. So Ken would say, you and Carol just go out and talk about trying to find somewhere to live. So we come in here, so it's all going to be improvised in the studio. We've got 2 sets, the cameramen are waiting. In those days, the cameras were about twice the size of that, with the lens that they had to spin round, different focuses. And they used to have what they called shot sheets, which is the number of shots, what lens they want for a certain close-up or whatever. So they asked for these shot sheets, and Ken said, what? We don't have that, we just shoot it, shoot it. And of course they didn't understand that. But it's one of those great films. It was a film, first went out, and I had a phone call from Max Bygraves. Now, I didn't know Max Bygraves. Have anybody heard of Max Bygraves? Yeah. Anyway, the phone went. We're living in a 2-bedroom flat, my wife and I. Phone went, and a voice said, Max Bygraves here. So I said, come on, don't. Who is this? No, come on. He said, it's Max Bygraves. I said, really? He said, yes. I saw Kathy come home, he said. I said, oh, good. He said, I was very moved. I've written a little song. He said, I'm not sure the tune. He goes, Kathy, come home, Kathy, come. Do you sing? I said, well, a bit. He said, we'll make a fortune. I was so moved, he was straight to the money. These things happen. Lunatics.
For people of my generation, we all know...
The athlete.
The athlete, the young athlete.
Yes.
We all know you as the voice of Mr. Ben.
Oh, Mr. Ben, yes.
It was a very, very dear place in my childhood, and I think a lot of people here.
Well, Mr. Ben, the dear little man, has glued me to generations of people.
Yeah.
I've been, my local pub, I know I went in there once and, or twice, and I went in there and somebody behind the bar said, they're outside. I said, who? She said, they're out there. So it's summer, my wife and I went and sat down. And suddenly this giant bloke, I mean really big, came over, he said, Liam wants to talk to you. Come on. Oh, whatever. There's Liam Gallagher. He goes, Mr. Ben! he said, oh, he said, I just bought the DVD of it. He said, for Patsy's kids. He said, I wish I'd got it here, you could sign it. I said, what's going on? It's upside down. And then there was somewhere in the West End, I was in a pub, and some blokes in the corner, another giant man came over. And he said, oh, we're down here for the rugby. I said, oh, yeah. He said, I'm having an argument with my friends. He said, what number of the house in Festive Road to Mr. Ben? That was 52. That's right, boys.
Do you find you get recognised for your voice?
I've had it, I would think, at least twice a week people say, "You're Mr. Ben," which is extraordinary, because I did it in, 68, 70, which is 40 years ago. And my voice has got deeper. But I suppose it's a cadence or something, I don't know. I don't go around saying, "Something as if by magic." I don't You are the country doing that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Something as if by magic. The shopkeeper of it.
How many did you do? Wasn't that many? Was it everything that went on?
13.
That all?
Yeah, and then we did one more, which is called The Gladiator, later. And it's rather sad, really. Dave McKee, who did it, he was one of the first people who was commissioned by the BBC to do his own cartoons. He'd never done one before, for Mr. Ben books. And the BBC paid him £1,200 an episode to make these things, and each 15-minute episode. But because he was inexperienced, it cost him more to do it. I mean, they're very basic, it's a bit jerky, but it's delightful for kids. I mean, lots of kids, I know grandparents say, "Oh, I've got Mr. Ben," because the kids love it now. They don't want all this, high-tech stuff. They see the simple, it just quiets them down. Anyway, I'll just tell you one little incident. When he was going out, and he was always very popular, I heard that in Glasgow, one of these clubs where kids get into at night, where they inject glue and all the things they do, when they want to get them out at 5 in the morning, they put on Mr. Ben. They do, and they revert to being little children again. Playing hopscotch outside and all that kind of thing. They just become quiet. But the thing about Mr. Ben was that I got £760 to do it. Now, we were living in a 4-quid-a-week flat at the time, and that was actually their daughter. And that gave us about a year and a half's rent or something, and a bit of food and some shoes. Anyway, Dave McKee came over. He's living in Paris now. He came over, and we always go out to lunch. We took him out to lunch, and there'd been an interview in the Times or something with him, and he said they'd sold 100,000 DVDs of it. Now, for a start, it had been repeated on the BBC for 21 years, twice a year. It had been on Nick Jr. television, VHSs sold, and 100,000 DVDs. So my wife, who's not a bit like Karen really, she jumped up and said, "Well, what about Ray? Is he getting any more money? 760 quid?" He said, "Well, you better talk to my business manager." So I phoned him on the Monday, the business manager. He said, "No, it was a buyout." I said, "68, it was a buyout?" He said, "Yeah." So I phoned Equity, the union, the Actors Union. They said there weren't buyouts in 1968, 70, not till 73. "Have you got the original contract?" "Well, now look, I've been doing voiceovers for years, I've got thousands of contracts. Would I have the Mr. Ben contract?" So they phoned up Clive, the business manager, and of course he hasn't got it either. And I would have had £300,000 of that. So 760, well, it doesn't matter. In the end, I suppose it does. My grandchildren would have liked it. There we are. The tragedies of life. But I'm all right.
Yeah. You did.
Oh, I tell you about Tom Baker. Do you want to hear stories about Tom Baker? My favourite story, I mean, there's lots of stories about Tom Baker. I mean, I'll give you the one when they were filming Winchester Cathedral. Tom said to the director, he said, "Have the props van got any Wellington boots?" He said, "What more Wellington boots for?" He said, "I want to put them in the middle of the nave." He said, "I'll hide behind that post, you shout action, and I'll run out and pick them up and run back." He said, "What do you want to do that for?" "Well, it's the TARDIS, you can get anything, can't you?" He said, "Snip out and get them." But this great story is, Tom, you do a lot of voiceovers and all that kind of thing. One Friday night, raining, November, 5 o'clock, he comes out of the studio and it's pouring with rain. People running around with umbrellas, banging into everyone. He's got to get to Waterloo Station and go home. And he sees somebody getting out of a cab just outside the Palladium. And he ran the road, got in. Safe, no rain, got his standard, he's in the cab. But of course, what he doesn't realise is, he's in a cab with a member of the most opinionated people in the world, you know, taxi drivers, black cab drivers. So the bloke going on, he said, hey, he said, oh, bloody awful weather, isn't it? So Tom said, yes, it is, yes. He's bloody right. I've been on since 4 o'clock this morning. At the airport, he said, I took some people there, I've been every bloody where. He said, where are you going then? He said, Waterloo Station. Oh my God, he said, that's tricky. He said, they've shut off Piccadilly Circus and Trafalgar Square, left out in the Haymarket, do all that. But Tom said, fine. Pulls up at traffic lights, and the bloke goes, it's you! He turns around, you see. He goes, oh yeah. He said, oh my God, you're my favourite Doctor Who. He said, you're brilliant. I said to my wife, he said, that John Pertwee. Tom's sitting there going, so he thought he better, you know, play back for his own course. So he said, yeah. He said, oh yeah, John, yeah. He said, what did you think of Tom Baker? He went, Tom Baker? Rubbish. Bloody teeth, that hair, he said, that scarf, he's always drunk. He said, Tom said, I said, Tom, this must have been dreadful. Well, he said it was. He said, I've got to Dr. Luke, and he asked for my autograph. I said, you didn't. He said, no, I signed John Pertwee.
Has anybody got any questions that they'd love to ask Ray?
You don't have to.
Oh, go on, yes you do. Yes you do.
No, there's no one can say anything. I can see no one's mouth. True. Yes.
Why were you picked for Mr. Ben?
Pardon?
Why were you picked for Mr. Ben?
What did I what?
Why were you picked? Why were you picked?
Oh, I don't know. I think he actually did a clip on my website. My friend of mine, Harry, did a little film where Dave McKee is saying he was scared of approaching me because I thought I was too famous. That's why I was picked. I don't know why. I suppose I was enthusiastic, handsome, and
Just right for a voiceover. Really.
I knew where to go.
Oh, there's another question.
There was an arm, but it's fallen
There
down.
was an arm, yeah, it was me. Yeah, you were handsome, by the way. You said that Gordon Fleming was the only person that employed you twice.
Yes.
How did you actually get the part in the Doctor Who film?
Well, I was sort of a young person, and young actors were, you know, there was a lot of young actors about, you know, in those days. But I think he liked me because I think I'd done The Knack before that, and I'd done Kathy Come Home, things like that. I think it was all part of a kind of I was popular on screen, you know, I was quite popular. And I think he disliked me, I suppose, I don't know. He always said to me, you've got to get old, Ray, you've got to get old. I said, why? He was Scottish, sorry, I was confusing you. He said, you've got to get old. He said, why? I said, why? You've got to get some lines on your face, son, you'll never get work otherwise. He did get me another job, a part with Stanley Baker, Richard Attenborough. I played a young officer, and I thank him for this. Thank you, Gordon, because nobody would have employed me this part. I was always thought I was a bit rough and, you know, a bit cockney-ish. But I played a posh officer in this. And remember Stanley Baker, who was a bit of a macho bugger, and we had to walk side by side on a tracking shot, the camera going on the track, to Richard Attenborough's office. And during the rehearsals, I kept thinking, I'm the same size as he is. He's a big macho bloke, and I'm actually about the same height. When we got to the take, he was taller. I said to him, I demonstrated. I said, Stanley, what? I said, during the rehearsals, I actually thought I was the same size as you, but in the take you were taller. He said, I'm not going to let a dwarf like you. He said, no, this is what I do when I want to be taller than people. I'm mincing, you know. They're all strange actors. All of us.
You appeared with a very famous soap, EastEnders.
Ah.
Quite a while. How many years did you do on EastEnders?
About 2 years.
Yeah.
When I went into it, and there's a lot of people in EastEnders who I know. I mean, older generation. June Brown, these people I know very well. And when I got into it, they said, welcome. welcome to the pension fund. But, unfortunately, I drew the short straw, because I had to marry Pauline Fowler. I didn't know I was going to, I promise you. And for the first 3 months, she was like a joy. I mean, she was showing me around everywhere, smiling, everywhere. And she'd show me the shortcuts to the Albert Square, through that gents' toilet, get there quicker, all this stuff, introducing me to cameramen and all that. And then there was a moment when a director who directed 2 scenes between us in a I don't know where, long scene. And she said, don't you cut me your raised lines. He's a very experienced actor. And don't give him inflections either. He knows how to inflect. She's supporting me. And then the crunch came. I was called up to the office. The producer, you're going to marry Wendy. I said, oh. Does Wendy know? She said, not yet. Anyway, when she found out, that was the end of it. She never spoke to me for a year and a half. True, she didn't speak to me. It was the most intolerable time in this dressing room, horrible dressing room, with a kind of a studio couch. I was laying down one day, feeling sorry for myself, and the bloody thing closed up like a first. I went downstairs, I said, that bloody couch is useless, it just closed up like a toast. Oh, we'll get you a new one. 3 months later, I was laying on the floor until I got a new one. But it was just dreadful. I felt, I tried to get out 3 times, the producer wouldn't let me go. It was just horrible. And in the end, I came back from holiday, and they said, you killed her. I said, pardon? Yes, you killed her. I said, I didn't notice that. Oh no, it happened off screen. So anyway, you're going to have to fall out of a first floor window. I said, oh, well, we'll get you a stuntman. I thought, bloody marvellous. And she once had to hit me with a plate. And kids came up to me, they said, this is the plate. I went, it's a bit bloody hard, isn't it? They said, well, if we'd used a weak one, it would have broken too easily and it would have flopped and all that. Well, she went at it like with a venomous plate. She hit me once, and I thought, my God, I've done it. I hope it's over. And the director said, what, all right now? They said, no, we'll have to do it again. It was a cabling shot. What did you do? One of the moments of sheer horror, being hit again by a woman who hated me. Anyway, it wasn't fun, no. I still watch it, because I've got some mates in it, and I always think to myself, it all looks so easy. That I used to write words down on beer mats, on serviettes, a wrist, it's all the same. All right, it's all right, I'll see you in the Vic. Back up. There's so many of these going on, you don't know which is what, half the time. So it's to write it all down. But I mean, and I watch them now and I think, oh, it looks so easy. But I know they'd be sitting in their dressing room from 7 in the morning till about 1:30 to do one scene. And then they have to wait till 5 o'clock for the next one. Then they'll say, you can go home now, we'll do it tomorrow, and all this. My happiest moment in that was one day, I had a mate in it called Dave Hill. And he was ill. I had a phone call. I wasn't working this day. I had a phone call from the office. They said, will you come in tomorrow and do Dave's part? I said, what? Would you want me to have a North Country accent and put on funny makeup or something? No, you just play it. It's a scene in the Vic and with a couple of people, nice little scene. I went in there and it was the happiest afternoon I'd ever spent on that show. Because I was just laughing. As Barbara Windsor said to me, oh, you live in a house of doom and gloom. She was rowing and moved. Oh, anyway, I'm so impressed now. Bring that up. I didn't tell you anything. Oh, sorry.
What about Big Deal then? Because I love that. Anybody remember Big Deal? Yeah, Robbie Box.
Yeah, that was my favourite. I never knew how they would do so many of them. After the first one, I was exhausted, and I thought, how are you going to do another 9 of these? And we did 30. But they did, and I must remember we worked quite hard on that, and I remember driving back one night at the lights of Gunnersbury, and the next thing I knew, people had tooted in the car and fallen asleep. And I went in the next day and I happened to mention to somebody that I'd fallen asleep at the wheel of the car. That was it. a driver from there on in. It was wonderful. Absolutely in style. It was great fun. They were a wonderful group of people, and a joy to go to work every day. It really was a real joy. I can't tell you how exciting it was. Not exciting, but everyone was supportive. It was good fun, you know.
You probably find that they don't actually make, was that you were talking about outside, they don't make that kind of drama anymore, that kind of, it's like Lovejoy, wasn't it? That kind of slightly roguish kind of
yeah, but
act.
also it was kind of, it's like, there was dialogue in it. I know it wasn't dialogue like, you know, it wasn't Noel Coward or anything, but there were scenes that went on for longer than a minute and a quarter or something, you know. I mean, I'm watching this thing with the, what's the name of that thing?
Gillian Anderson.
Oh, it's a terrible...
Oh, The Fall.
The Fall.
The Fall.
Yeah, Gillian Anderson.
Oh, I find it. I mean, I really find it. I'm watching it, but I find it horrific in its, the pace of it, the nastiness of it. I mean, I remember on Big Deal once, there was a scene where we were in an illegal nightclub and the police had come in and I'm trying to get out. And the director said to me, "Take your time over it, Ray." I said, "Why?" I said, "I've got to rush, try and get out." No. I want you audience to think, how's he going to get out of this? So it was kind of like, it was clever thinking about it in lots of ways. You know.
They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
I don't like anything like that.
I think I've got one more thing to ask you, Ray.
What?
That's a cake for me. As you know, it's Peter Cushing's 100th birthday today.
Yeah.
As you say, lovely man. I was very pleased to and honoured to have met him a long time ago. He would have been the same age as my grandfather. That's a question about Peter Cushing for our family. And I think he's up there. Yes, Ollie Hardacre from OH or O Kate has made a beautiful cake for
Is it big enough for everyone to have a slice?
And very kindly asked Ray as the co-star of the Darling film to cut Peter's birthday cake, and it will be taken downstairs, and everybody hopefully will be able to have a bit of cake just to celebrate the centenary of probably the forgotten Doctor out of all of us. So if you'd like to do on, please.
Yes, that's right. Very serious. Well, he was, and I have to say, he was, and I mean this most sincerely, he was a tremendous man, a really generous man, thoughtful, a real actor. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, actually. Anyway, Peter, oh, I'm going to cut your name now. Oh, God. Oh, what's this on the side of the grill?
There we go. I think round of applause. It'll be taken downstairs and you can all have a slice, as long as you leave me one. Just like to say a very big thank you to Ray.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's been quite an ambition to have Ray with us, and to have him on a day like today, on the birthday and release of the Blu-rays is a little bit special. So,
Yes.
big round of applause for Ray. You will be signing downstairs.
I will be signing
Yes.
downstairs.
We're going to show a special feature